So I know I've told you that I was diagnosed last year with mild to moderate hearing loss. Do you need a hearing aid? My doctor asked, apparently rhetorically. We can look at it, he continued, without missing a beat, but it's not necessary. Why don't we see how we're doing in a year? Well, a year later, bam! Apple puts an FDA-approved hearing test in iOS 18.1 and hearing aid capabilities in AirPods Pro 2. Which is great, except I didn't have a pair of AirPods Pro 2. Until yesterday. My thinking was, I know I have mild to moderate hearing loss, my doctor told me. So, updated iOS 18.1 yesterday, piece of cake, and to my amazement ended up with the right firmware for hearing aid functionality in my brand new AirPods Pro 2. Did the hearing test, and guess what? For both ears, my iPhone tells me I have little to no hearing loss. So what now? Was my doctor wrong? Or was my FDA-approved in-home hearing test? I know I could go ask my doctor, but he's not my doctor anymore. My health provider changed, and I don't have $300+ to spend on a specialist. I just spent $200 on a pair of headphones I may not even need. You're going to start screaming.
This is Mac OS Ken.
Apple kicks off the week with new iMacs, Amazon spoils an Apple surprise, and new operating systems herald the arrival of Apple Intelligence. It is Tuesday, the 29th of October, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Incogni, helping you take back your personal data. Get 60% off an annual plan with code MacOSKen at incogni.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. As long as we're complaining, as I was doing a moment ago, it's kind of a bummer that between Apple Senior VP of Marketing Greg Joswick teasing this week's announcements last week, and all of last week's hearing health testers indicating that all of Apple's operating system updates were coming yesterday, with all that we knew Monday's news days in advance. I mean, not exactly on the Macs, but the OS updates? Yeah, pretty much. You want to start with the hardware? Let's start with the hardware. Apple started its week of teased Mac updates with an update for iMac. Guess what? Now powered by M4. John Turnus, Senior VP of Hardware Engineering, hosted a roughly 10-minute video on the new machine from one of those weird Teletubby buildings in a hill on Apple Park. You can catch that on YouTube. According to the company's press release, the M4 iMac is up to 1.7 times faster than the iMac with M1 and is able to handle more intense workloads like photo editing and gaming up to 2.1 times faster than the M1 iMac. 1.7, 2.1, might be more considerable to upgrade for folks working on a non-Apple Silicon machine. Apple says the computers introduced yesterday are up to 6 times faster than the most popular Intel-based iMac. Moving past the PR speak, a piece from Ars Technica says the biggest functional upgrade to the base model, new processor not included, may be the bump from 8 GB to 16 GB of RAM, the first time Apple has bumped up the RAM in a base model Mac since 2012. Bump up the RAM, bump it up. Excuse me. No help on the storage. That still starts at 256 gigabytes. Of course, you can always add external storage. The RAM you start with is the RAM with which you finish, so cool on the upgrade there. The entry-level starting price is the same as the machine's predecessor. Ars Technica says $1,299 gets one going with an M4 processor sporting 8 CPU cores, 4 performance, 4 efficiency, and 8 GPU cores. Moving up to $14.99, Nabs won a fully enabled M4 chip with 10 cores, 4 performance cores, 6 efficiency, and 10 GPU cores. That one will support as many as 3 displays, the one it comes with, plus 2 external displays that can run at resolutions up to 6K. The lesser M4 iMac will only support 2, the one it comes with, and a single 6K external display at 60 Hz. There's a nano texture glass option that drastically reduces reflections and glare, according to Apple. There's a new 12 megapixel center stage camera with support for desk view. A piece from Mac Rumors points out the USB-C ports on the new Magic Mouse, Magic Keyboard, and Magic Trackpad. Those come color matched to the new iMacs, though Apple is selling some separately. Not going to do much more on the specs because, you know your use case better than I do. They're improved machines. You can pay more for more improvements or save a few quatloos buying off the rack. I should tell you about the colors, though. The new iMac comes in 7 vibrant colors, according to Apple, bringing fresh shades of green, yellow, orange, pink, purple, and blue, alongside silver. Orders started yesterday, Monday, the 28th of October. They will hit Apple stores, Apple-authorized resellers, and, of course, the homes and offices of people who ordered them on Friday, the 8th of November. Worth pointing out, the Turnus video I mentioned earlier had the exec saying the iMac was one of 3 Mac announcements Apple has planned for this week. Let us hope they were not building to the anticipated new Mac Mini, since Amazon kind of blew that. Cult of Mac says the online superseller let the Mac out of the bag on Monday. M4 powered, which had been expected. Slimmer form factor, which had been expected. According to the cult, a comparison chart accidentally published earlier by Amazon confirms the new Mac Mini will be available with either an M4 or M4 Pro chip configuration. The latter will pack a 13-core CPU and up to a 20-core GPU. You can get the machine with up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory and 8 terabytes of storage. The cult figures that was the machine Apple planned or plans to announce today. Either way, more on that later this week. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Incogni, helping you take back your personal data. If you listen to the checklist by SecureMac, you have heard a lot about the company National Public Data, source of one of the biggest losses of personally identifiable information, well, certainly this year and maybe in the last several. They gathered info on millions of people to be used for background checks and by private investigators. And now they have lost that to bad guys. Thing is, a lot of it was bought off of data brokers, other people who gather info on us to sell for various reasons. Incogni can get your info away from such brokers. I mean, you could do it too, if you knew who the brokers were, had time to petition each one, and had time to keep doing that. Seriously though, Incogni knows who they are and obviously has the time, since this is what they do. Since I started with Incogni just last week, over 107 data brokers have completed requests to remove my data, saving me over 80 hours of back and forth. And Incogni can do that for you. Make an account, give them permission to work on your behalf, and Incogni requests data brokers remove your data. They deal with any objections data brokers might have, and they keep doing it. They have monthly plans or annual plans built for individuals or friends and family as well. Whether you want to slow the flow of spam, stifle the annoying robocalls, or guard against identity theft, Incogni is ready to work with you and for you. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Get 60% off an annual plan with code MacOSKen at incogni.com/MacOSKen. That is a huge savings, and it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. INCOGNI. Get 60% off an annual plan with code MacOSKen at incogni.com/MacOSKen. As had been expected, Apple did hit with a wealth of OS updates on Monday. Mac Rumors ran pieces on each, covering iOS and iPadOS 18.1, macOS Sequoia 15.1, watchOS 11.1, tvOS 18.1, and visionOS 2.1. The watchOS, tvOS, and visionOS updates brought minor improvements and bug fixes according to their associated reports. There were also releases of iOS and iPadOS 17.7.1, though those were strictly security-focused. The big news was tied to the updates for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS, since they usher in Apple Intelligence. Okay, slowly walk in Apple Intelligence. A lot of the fun features, Genmoji, Image Playground, ChatGPT integration, those are not coming until later this year. What's new, though, really isn't terrible. Another press release had the company highlighting system-wide writing tools, a more intelligent Photos app, and a more natural and conversational Siri. I'm honestly not convinced about that last one yet, though the voice does sound more natural. I don't know. I've never hated Apple's virtual assistant as much as most of the people I know do, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask. I know that when I've asked it for info about stuff on the iPhone itself, it's told me it can't do that. Not a great start. I haven't had a lot of time to play with the Photos app, though again, my first try was okay, actually not overly impressive on that one either. I had it search for someone of whom I have well over 100 pictures, and it found those no problem. When I searched the same name and the word smiling, it brought back 0 pictures, even though the person is smiling in most of the pictures of them on my phone. Again, though, that was one search. I'll play more and report back. I gotta say I am pretty impressed with the system-wide writing tools. I don't know that I'm going to use them because I actually actively enjoy writing, choosing my own words, picking my personal wordlets. It flowers stuff up nicely, though. I wrote an intentionally bare-bones dummy message, then hit rewrite, and it did, producing an email that was much less terse than the one I had fashioned. Terse. How's that for a wordlet? I would suggest you read what it rewrites closely. It volunteered me for more work than I intended in my original message. I gotta say, I am impressed, though. I had it rewrite. I had it rewrite again. I think I had it rewrite a third time as well. Honestly, I was curious to see whether the meaning would blur, like a copy of a copy of a copy. It did not. Just kept rewriting until I found a satisfactory composition, which I then deleted because it was a dummy message, as I say. I know I complained about there being no surprises, but there actually was one. Apple Intelligence went live for one of Apple's operating systems in the European Union. A piece from Cult of Mac pointed me toward the fine print in Apple's AI press release. Quoting that, Mac users in the EU can access Apple Intelligence in US English with macOS Sequoia 15.1. In April, Apple Intelligence features will start to roll out to iPhone and iPad users in the EU. This will include many of the core features of Apple Intelligence, including writing tools, Genmoji, a redesigned Siri with richer language understanding, ChatGPT integration, and more. I think we all knew it would happen at some point, though how distant a point was the question. The Cult O piece points out, Apple said in June that regulatory uncertainties brought about by the Digital Markets Act made it think twice before introducing Apple Intelligence in the European Union. I guess they had a rethink and then rethink and, I don't know, maybe a rethink a third time. Or would that be the fourth? Finally today, if you're wondering when the real Apple Intelligence Fund will begin, it will begin in December. A piece from Mac Rumors says that is when we can expect iOS and iPadOS 18.2, as well as macOS Sequoia 15.2. The piece had the Cupertino company saying new Apple Intelligence features will be available in December. According to the report, the update will add the first image generation features, including Genmoji, Image Playground, and Image Wand. Plus, it includes ChatGPT integration with Siri and new, more flexible writing tools options. I'm curious, did you rush headlong into Monday's OS updates? Are you getting one of the new iMacs? If you have thoughts on what Apple hath wrought, I would love to hear them. Or read them. I'll be along in a moment to tell you how to get those to me. macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and sponsored by Incogni. Get 60% off an annual plan with code macOSKen at incogni.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. Send me that feedback I asked for, one way or another. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.